Hi everyone, I'm here today with Oreen Cohen, who is an interdisciplinary artist, works in sculpture, installation, 2D drawing, and painting. She's also a community programmer helping to promote arts education throughout the Pittsburgh region. Welcome, Oreen. Thank you so much for talking today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It's an important discussion.
You have some really neat sculptures and installations I saw that you do at various galleries.
Yeah, each artwork that I make is created for the site. So site-specific work, whether it's in a gallery or in a site in the public. And when I'm working in the public, I'm usually working with community for community input, but working in the gallery, it's more my own sort of mentality is sort of exploding over the whole space. Also working large scale.
You have been working on a series called the Darkest Dark series.
This series started in 2017 when I was sort of going through a sort of deep dissection of my mental states and sort of going through a lot during that time. And I was working on a lot of sculptures then in my studio, and the sculpture just wasn't immediate enough for me to get the ideas out and the emotions out. And I was and I didn't have space. My studio at that time was really small, and I didn't have the space to paint or anything like that. And I was just I've got a whole bucket of charcoal, and I've got rolls and rolls of paper that I haven't touched. And I just, one night, 3 a.m., just threw up a huge piece of paper on the wall, and I just started going at it, and playing really loud music in my studio, and just releasing in this really cathartic process. So yeah, I've been developing that series 2017 until now. In 2019, I started opening up the process more with collaborators, which I can show you in the presentations. This is just a view of my studio, my current studio at Radiant Hall in Homewood. Always got several different projects happening, and also storage of sculptures. So you see a huge spine hanging from the ceiling. That's a recreation of my own spine. And that piece sort of led me to, was the sculpture I was working on before I started working on the Darkest Dark series. And I feel actually the story is relevant. In 2015, well, before that, I had a lot of back issues that came from working in sculpture and heavy metal. In 2015, I had a really bad fall, which dislocated 2 of my vertebrae, and I had to have emergency spinal surgery. And I wasn't living in a good place. I wasn't, just a lot of things started changing very quickly, and my outlook on things got really dark. The prospects or my sort of dreams and hopes of working huge scale things I'll never be able to do again. And anyways, fast forward to 2017. Again, I was dealing with a lot of the mental distress. I was in a really, really bad place. I needed to immediately get that out of me. I never took the time to speak to a therapist or anything. They always made me feel like I was crazy or making things up in my head or whatever. And the only way that I can work through this is through my artwork, unfortunately, and fortunately, because it's always really important and really good to have someone to speak to. But there was just so much to dig through and so much to confront. And I never really took the time to do that because I'm always go, 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 next project, and it's just, okay, I'm just going to dig deep right now and do it with black and white, the most bare surface, bare materials. This was actually the first drawing that I ever did. The size of it, I believe, is 6 feet long by about 5 feet wide. These are all large-scale drawings, and a lot of them, they're just sort of like posted up really quickly, just tacked to the wall, because I had like no time. I was like not like cutting this perfect or anything. It was just like about the immediacy of the moment and the mark. So I would do this late at night in my studio. Again, like nobody was ever around. All the lights would be off. I'd have a spotlight on the wall and really, really loud, aggressive music, usually like aggressive metal music with men screaming at me. And yeah, I would just go at it, and it'd be sort of like a dance against the wall and really thrashing against the wall. I have a history of going to like metal concerts and punk shows and all these things and moshing and getting really crazy back in my day before any spinal issues. So I just kind of like taking that out. It was extremely cathartic, and these first drawings are really abstracted, but I felt like each mark really tells a story. Like as I started working into them and sort of like picturing the situations that I was going through in my mind and thinking about the marks that those moments or those aggressions or those feelings would make in my mind, they started coming out on page. So it's a lot of like imagining. Often I'm like closing my eyes and just like seeing those emotions and working through them. And then like really like, you know, dark is dark because there's some areas that are so dense, like just that scrubbing of the charcoal in an area makes it so dense and deep and dark, and then really pushes the field of the drawing back into these sort of depths.
Like this painting right here is charcoal, and then it looks like is there wires coming out of that too?
No, there's no wires. It's all just mark making. I think there's this one. I started adding chalk to it, and then there's also I use the eraser also as a tool. So it's just like adding and then subtracting. Yeah, and it's sort of pushing and pulling.
What I love about this is the depth in it. It's almost like the majority of it is colored with the gray and the black, but there's some white there, and that really comes through too. So I love that, the dark light. I don't know what I'm talking about, but
no, you got it. No, it's what it's about. It's about people just looking at it and finding those marks and the some people have had curators and critics come to my studio and they're like, oh, it's too dark, it's too much, you need more negative space. I'm like, but for me in my artwork, it's always maximal, whether it's like the scale of the thing or an installation that covers like every square foot of space. And like, I think that's just part of my personality, and the sort of like aggressiveness of it also is part of it. I've been described as being a brute, and I used to be like really insulted by it, but I'm like, no, you know what? Like I am kind of a brute, and I'm considerate in my moves, but also like everything comes with immediacy, and I try not to let like intention get in the way too much of these types of works, because that sort of it's just all about the process. And again, that process is just to like evict any emotion or like any like dark things that are going on in my head, like just out of my brain, to find a space for healing. And sometimes that space is really messy as it comes out in the drawings.
Well, that's interesting to me because it does look that way. It looks like a very healing image to me. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you. And then as I started developing it more, like these are images like on the wall, so you can see like how the marks come off of the page. And I really want to show that movement, that I'm like actually like I'm doing arm circles against the wall and really striking the page. And it's like I work all over the drawing and not in just one spot to find that balance within the piece. But again, like it's really all about movement to me. And this one, like, I started having really vivid dreams after starting this series, and I would just, like, I don't know, like all my life I always sort of, like, I feel like I'm dreaming, but I'm also, like, recording the dreams, and then I'm taking from those dreams later on in my artwork, whether it's sculpture or whatever. And like the symbolism, like, oh, I saw birds and, you know, bones in the dirt and all these things. And so sort of like remembering that. And actually one symbol that you'll see pretty much in like every single one are buckets. You can always find hidden buckets somewhere in these drawings. It's something, you know, it's like a container half full or not, or these, but mostly someone I was in a relationship with once for a long time. I was in a relation for. He told me that I was a bucket with a hole in it, and would sing this song like it was like, there's a hole in the bucket, dear Lila, and like it would be so grating, and like it became like this sort of bucket with a hole, like it became like I internalized it, and I never realized until like all of a sudden these buckets are showing up and just kept coming out in all these drawings, like how much that affected me. And yeah, just sort of like replaying those like really painful moments and again drawing them out. Like here you can see like these arms coming through a bucket, like water pouring out, a sort of like shipwreck sort of situation. And yeah, and this one's called Bale again. And like still like really abstracted, and like this one I think human form started to come out of it, and that's where things started to get really interesting for me, where it wasn't just like I was imagining like my dreams and everything and like in the marks, but I was also like standing. While I was drawing, I would stand and like sort of model these postures that I wanted to create in the drawing. Like there's this like person digging, so just to like model it, like I would stand like, you know, still with my charcoal in my right hand, but I would like stand and I'd be like, okay, this is like how my hand would sort of look, my left hand, and really model that. And then I have my friend, incredibly talented dancer, local to Pittsburgh, Gia Cacalano. She's like a somatic healer and dancer, and she just constantly posts videos of her movements on Facebook and Instagram, and I'm always taken. I always pause and take a moment to really watch her movements and her feet, the way they move. It's incredible. So I would watch her videos and sort of like record those movements in my mind, and then take those back with me in these drawings, as sort of like my figure model in a way.
I know Gia, and she is just amazing.
Yeah, like I felt like her movements were the same as me making my marks, but her making these physical movements and sort of like just, yeah, I've just never experienced something like that. And you know, I met her doing a performance at the New Hazlet Theater with a whole group of artists, and yeah, I was just taken by her and just she continued to be, I guess, sort of a muse in a way. So again, like the figure started really showing up. This figure started like gathering flowers. So it's also dealing with my own mental states, but this was also, I remember this drawing actually came out when there were a lot of young women coming out about their sexual abuse when they were younger, continued sexual abuse, and there were all these trials and all these things, and it was just, absolutely devastating to hear that and feel that, and be a part of that. Me too. And so I started not only dealing with my own stuff, but dealing with it through like understanding other women. I'm not alone. Other women are dealing with these issues. Other people are dealing with these issues, and how do I express that? And how do I understand my own feelings and hearing their stories and back and forth. So this piece especially came out with it. It's sort of like picking of flowers, and and this is a 5 foot by 5 foot drawing. And then this one was the largest one at the time in 2018, 108 inches, about 9 feet by 6 feet. This one was the first one, I think, that took me more than one night. Usually these works take about 2 hours to finish because I'm working that fast. This one I took like 2 days. I came back to it, which is something I don't often do. But yeah, again, like those feet in there, remembering Gia's feet and her movements, and again, sort of dealing with sexual abuse and all that, sort of like how you see yourself in the mirror. A lot of symbols in here. There's like a giant snake and all sorts of things, tornadoes and mirrors and ropes. So that last drawing was also something that I recorded. It was the first time I recorded the making of it in my studio, and I don't know, I started getting interested in the idea, like, okay, like this is starting to open up. It's not just my mental state. Like I worked through a lot of things in the first couple of drawings, and it's like, how can I share this with people, and how can I share this the performance, the performativity of like throwing myself against the wall, and the aggression and the mark making. Like, how do I share this with others and have it be a part of, like, the process, be a part of the exhibiting of it, the making of it, everything. So I was invited for an exhibition, like a 3-person exhibition at the MoCA in Long Island. I exhibited 3 large-scale works there, and one of them was this one that I made on site the day before the opening. This was the first time ever like anybody actually saw me make these drawings. It was just the curator and another the director was there at night, and I was sort of like thrashing on her office wall. But it was recorded, not the best recording, but this was the piece that came out of it, and it's a little less finished than the other ones. But again, that immediacy, I actually really like that. This is sort of like allowing that negative space rest and be there. So that was the difference in that. And these are the pieces that I exhibited during that show. So it's a little bit tight in the corners, but it was a really great opening. It was an exhibition about the continuing line. So I think it was 3 or 4 female artists all working in line work. So it was a really, really great show. This work, again, started opening up my process further. I reached out to Gia and was like, listen, you're my muse. I know you really you personify my mark making, and I want to collaborate with you. So we had a couple of meetings. I also worked with a local noise musician, Jonathan Hodges, goes by the name Echo Lightwave Unspeakable, who also, like, he makes like really crazy like instruments out of different toys and things, and really like plays with contact microphones, so like movements that would happen on paper, he could pick those up and then like manipulate them. So again, that sort of like immediacy in the moment and improvisation. So all 3 of us sort of improvised together to create this performance called Somatic Automatic, which we wanted to tour, and we've tried to tour, but it's been difficult. for funding and everything. But I'll play you a little clip of it. But basically, Gia, we invited, there were 2 different nights, and each night there were about 20 to 25 people, and we invited people to join Gia in a meditation to sort of like ease their bodies, feel their bodies, and then on the ground there was paper and charcoal, and then I led them through a drawing exercise. And then there was a quick break. We put their papers on the wall, and then we performed for the audience. And so it was very interactive. It was not possible without the audience, and it was really wonderful to see the sort of healing that came out for individuals and like the sort of collective. So I'll just play you a quick clip. I think this is a short clip. It's just all the videos that I'm showing you are on my website. So again, you saw Gia's movements and how they reflect that the aggression and the immediacy of the moment and the emotion, and then the sounds, how they sort of reverberated those same sort of emotions. And you could see me sort of like tapping the paper because we had contact microphones, again, collecting the sounds of my drawing, and then Jonathan manipulating those. So it was just such an amazing performance and collaboration, and I love collaborating with other artists and finding those connections. And that's one of my favorite things about Pittsburgh, of being an artist working here, is that like there's so many different artists, so many different creatives working in so many different mediums, and it's so easy to find those links, and there's the support to make those happen. So we did that it's at 907 Gallery, downtown Pittsburgh, and sponsored by the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust. So they were really supportive in providing the space and the time to create this work. They continued to support us later that year. I had a studio visit with Murray Horn, who's the director of the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust, or the head curator. I showed him the video that we did with Gia and the drawings. And, I was like, I have this really wild idea, to bring that space that I originally created the drawings in with like the aggressive, man-powered metal punk fast music into a very small contained gallery space, and I just want to thrash out like through the audience. So he was like, all right, let's do it. So he allowed me to have a solo show at I might have the gallery name wrong. I don't know if it's in the 907, another gallery downtown. I invited, again, Gia, Jonathan, and invited the local hardcore punk band Speed Plants into the gallery space. So it was a very interesting collaboration. I do have a short clip of this. So I had the exhibition. I had like the traditional exhibit with like all these works up on the wall, the entire series of Darkest Dark, which at that point I think there were just like 20, but now there's like over 40 something drawings. But so I installed them. They were up for a month, and then the last night closing reception during the Three Rivers Arts Festival, we had this performance, and there were like over 1,000 people that came through the gallery and sort of blasted everybody's eardrums and handed out ear protection and things. It was really loud. And so again, it started with Gia dancing, and then a little collaboration with me and Jonathan. Then Speed Plants came and played. So this was a durational performance. It was 4 hours of straight drawing for me. And again, like I mentioned before, these drawings, they don't like to come back to them. They just happen in the moment, and they need to be completed like that night. In this 4-hour period of time, I created a 30-foot by 6-foot drawing on the wall. So here's a quick 30-second video clip.
How are you?
How are you?
So that was just a quick showing of what that was. Again, there were like so many people in there. It was very hard to talk.
I love how she's actually getting like dirty with the charcoal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, there was definitely no escaping it there. Even the musicians were like covering themselves in the charcoal and rubbing up against it and all that. Yeah, there's just so many figures in the drawing as well. And of course,
well, there's that to me also is like you have to have that immersion aspect. You know, to me, like you have to be like touching almost everybody else's medium.
Mm-hmm.
To be able to really feel the art, and you have such a visceral quality to your imagery.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. I just really wanted to immerse people. Like, okay, my brain is this small container of a space, and I'm going to, like, immerse you in my brain for just a moment. Like, you know, me seeing Gia, me hearing these sounds, me throwing myself against the wall. Like, you're in it, and it's, like, reverberating through the room, and it's so loud. Yeah, it was really funny, especially with the Three Rivers Arts Festival crowd. Yeah, again, this was the process of like opening up and sharing, and Gia and I would love to do more of these sorts of collaborations. You know, I got interest from, and this was like really out of the blue, kind of really interesting collaboration. And this is again like not, this I feel like was taking a step further, where visualizing and feeling the current events happening in the world and coupling that with music, sort of creating a new imagery for the situation. Local Pittsburgh lyricist Sharon Don, who is incredible with his words and his flow and his feeling and just vibe. I met him because he filmed some videos at a warehouse that my partner rents out. For his videos, he put like some of my sculptures in there or whatever, and then we were talking about like potentially collaborating in the future, and it was always just like this thing, like we'd love to do it, but like when's the right time? And it's like we didn't want to like work for free necessarily, but we still want to do it. It's like, okay. And this was just recent collaboration, September 2020, during in the middle of COVID and all these things happening, and the social unrest. And so we had the opportunity through Carnegie Mellon and Assemble Pittsburgh, a really amazing community after school program. They offered an opportunity for artists to create a work or give a presentation or something to help connect their incoming freshmen who are coming in virtually to connect with the greater Pittsburgh community. Which myself, as an alumni from the graduate program at CMU, I thought it was so important for those freshmen to connect further. So Sharonda and I, we it was completely improv. I was listening to his music on repeat, basically all of his albums up until now, just to understand his music, to understand his words, to understand him. And we had a lot of conversations, but it was still very improvised, 20-minute performance and he brought some other collaborators, lyricists with him. Out of Artist Imagery Source, gave us a space for the night to work and record in. So this is a video that we made featuring a few of his songs and myself reacting to those songs, and sort of, I think in the end it was a very uplifting drawing, again resonating what he was saying. So I'll show you a quick clip of that.
I can tell myself I don't need a loan, leave me alone. I can help myself. All I know is grandma gave me truth before she left. I wrote this when she was here.
Sorry. And buffering.
Hydroponic clouds, yeah, I'm that black man of the now style. Dr. Ben Yakin and books, look from Dr. Dan. Dolce binocular specs, spends $500,000, double for the sneakers. Spends a couple weekends in Hawaii, and the side you can find me on the beach and trying to speak. I'm on the.
Yeah, hold on, slow it down. Welcome y'all to
So you can kind of get the idea. It was a 20-minute performance. I'm not going to drag you through it, but this is also on my website. There's some other collaborators in it. Let me see if I can scrub to the final work over here. But it was such a different collaboration, one because the music, the flow was so different from the more aggressive music that I listened to. The sort of figure in the center of the page, sort of representing Sharon Don, or, this person sort of overcoming and outstretched arms and sort of flying out, and, standing up. There's a flag in there and all sorts of things. I think I could have worked on this drawings for a couple more hours too, and a lot more would have come out, but it was that's it. It's a wrap, 20 minutes. But yeah, so these collaborations are so energizing, and I would love to collaborate more with other musicians, other artists and stuff, and just see what comes out of it, because I've worked through a lot of my emotions, and thankfully have come out of very dark hole. And that's not to say without the support of other people, other artists and things, and just, again, my art taking me through it. Sometimes you just have to confront it and push yourself, and like if you don't, it's just always going to drag you down. Encourage everyone out there, if you are going through something, you know, there's so many hotlines and things, so contact those people, but also, you know, there are creative outlets for you to take it through.
So the attendees in the workshop that you did you get any feedback from them about?
Yeah, I did get a lot of feedback. You know, there was one person in particular who was going through an extraordinarily difficult time, and he's like, you know, I just, on a whim, I saw this advertised, and I'm just like, what the hell, let's go. And he comes from a theater background and just didn't have the space or the opportunity to continue that, and that exercise sort of like reminded him of that creative space, of that safe space that you can create for yourself to just like release. Just want to show you where I am at now, and where, you know, this trajectory of growth sort of led me to. You know, with COVID and everything, I have a home studio that I've been working out of, and started working in collage, so taking drawings and like cutting them up and kind of putting them in other arrangements, which has been fun. So I'm playing around with that sort of idea, but also, you know, COVID happened, and it's hard to work on such large scale at home. So these were actually like the smallest drawings that I've ever made, actually like smallest artwork I think I've ever made, just 5-inch by 5-inch drawings. You know, I started opening up and allowing color into it, some mixed media like oil pastels, watercolor, just water even, and graphite. And these are sort of like dealing with COVID. This is like all the sewers who just like came to the front and started sewing like so many masks for people in this sort of like community initiative. It's a sort of beautiful movement. But also, you know, there's still like, you know, the scare of like everybody in lockdown and domestic violence and all these things. So like each one of these sort of like reflecting those moments, and then but also dealing with myself and my own identity, you know, trying to understand myself as a sort of brute again, you know, not fitting into the heels or the shoes that I was born in, and sort of like escaping that, and trying to like push those boundaries, you know. And I feel like, you know, when I'm making sculpture or I'm being more aggressive or something, I'm the sort of that yin and yang balance, you know, like that male energy versus the female energy, and like when is which one present. And so this small drawing, like you can see it one way, and then you flip it upside down and it's another way, and it's sort of this like being sort of like trickling out of itself. Yeah, so that's where I'm at now, sort of playing with color, continuing to draw, and looking forward to a solo exhibit of my works in Buffalo, New York, at the Buffalo Art Studios in July, hoping, pending all the COVID. But again, you can see all of my performances and my drawings and sculptures on my website, oreencohen.com, or you can follow my process at oco.art on Instagram. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Are you in a better place now?
I think so. I mean, so much has changed, and now I'm expecting a baby, and, you know, I think I've been consciously trying to put myself in a better mood so I have a happy baby. I think, again, like this whole entire process of making and then sharing, like, and then reflecting also, like, with communities, like understanding, like, that like I'm not alone in dealing with a sort of like dark space the sort of movements that have come out since 2017. I think, collectively, everybody in the world is all these sorts of revelations happening, which are so incredibly important, and I only hope for more movement, more positive movement in those things. But yeah, for myself personally, like, my art definitely saved my life. Definitely. Yeah.
And you're also a teacher.
Well, I teach, I used to teach like the 7th grade, like maker movement stuff. So I was like, putting things together, making something cool happen. But I mostly now I focus on community programming. In specific, right now I'm working with a group called Hiccup, and we promote graffiti arts and education and like public arts education, helping graffiti artists kind of take the bad reputation that they have and sort of like show the public and show the youth like the good side of it and like what the beauty and what it can contribute to the face of the community. So that's been active for 5 years, and then I also do like private teaching for kids and take them through like the drawing process and sculpture and sort of teaching them all the foundational things. So yeah, working with kids is a huge passion of mine.
That's amazing. So then, do they draw on like outside?
The kids go through like workshops, like painting on canvas and things. Yeah, and this spring we're working on a coloring book, like a graffiti arts coloring book from different artists from Mexico, Chicago, and Pittsburgh, and looking at the post-industrial cities and how graffiti culture has shaped those cities and sort of like revival and things. If anybody has any questions, always open and willing to talk and share, and if anybody needs any tips and tricks on how to like release their own creative energy and things and find that sort of soulless space, I'm absolutely there for you and happy to talk.
Thank you so much for that. I think you're doing an amazing service, a much needed service. Your Darkest Dark series it's dark.
Yeah.
but it's like, what a relief. What a relief for us to be able to see that and experience it. I certainly did, just through the imagery. I mean, I feel better. And it used to be like psychiatrists ask, they show drawing to their patients and like, what do you see? This is the next level. You're actually drawing things and processing that way.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing this really important interviews and everything. I'm really excited to see the other artists that you work with. So thank you.
No problem.
Awesome. Take care.